Hello, I'm Sam Gunther, and today I will be your English teacher. The book we'll be discussing is The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. The Alice Network is about two women, one who is a spy and one who is trying to find her cousin. Together, they try to piece their lives together after the Second World War. Today, we will be breaking down the plot, analyzing characters, discussing the writing, and exploring the themes of this book. The central conflict of this novel is how does life continue after war? Each character has their own journey to forge through, but in the resolution we see that each character has found their way to cope with the trauma they faced and become whole people again. And most of Eve's journey happens during World War I, so we have a 30-year time jump between the end of World War II and the middle of World War I. However, Eve's journey is the most exciting considering that she's a spy. Although Lily does say, to tell the truth, much of this special work we do is quite boring. I think that's why women are so good at it. Our lives are already boring. Nothing that the spies do is actually pretty boring. It gives these women a reason to live. Being recruited to be a spy by the handsome Captain Cameron, Eve is sent to France and is established in France by the famous Lily, head of the Alice Network. Eve is established as a spy at the restaurant Le Latte, run by a collaborator, and many German military leaders also frequent this restaurant. Due to the training of Lily and Eve's constant stutter, Eve gets the job at Le Latte and starts to gather important information she can give to the British. Unfortunately for her, Eve, aka Marguerite Lefrancois, her cover, gains the favor of the owner and collaborator René Bordelon. He seduces Eve, and she's able to get more and more secrets. For example, she knows when the Kaiser is visiting cities and what cities are getting bombed. All of this is very risky because Eve has to lie to one of the trickiest men in France. But her ruse proves that she is an excellent spy. Later on in the book, Germany has caught on that the English are using female spies. Lily is taking Eve to meet with Cameron after learning important information when she's captured. Because of Lily's lies and Eve's skills, although Lily is captured, Eve is still able to get her information to Cameron. Then she's forced to go back to Le Latte, where René has found out that Eve is a spy. René tortures Eve for information by breaking every knuckle in her left hand and then giving her an opium-induced dream. This is a devastating scene, and I think the author does a great job of capturing what it might feel like to be tortured and why this trauma affects Eve throughout her life. Eve is then sent to a POW camp with her fellow spies, and that's where she stays until Lily dies right before they are saved. Eve then lives with the guilt of sending her friend to her death, and she never gets over it. The second main character is Charlotte St. Clair. Charlie has come to Europe to rid herself of her little problem. Her mother and father have decided this is what's best for her because she doesn't know who the baby's father is. While at a layaway in London, Charlotte sneaks off to find an older Eve Gardner because her name was on some paperwork regarding Charlie's missing cousin, Rose. Charlie enlists Eve on her quest to find Rose because she mentions that Rose was working at a restaurant owned by René du Malicis. With Eve comes Eve's new handyman, Finn, a handsome Scotsman who's been imprisoned after his time during the war. During her search for Rose, Finn and Charlie learn more about Eve's time in France and why she's eager to find René and get her revenge. Also, during this trip, her and Finn start becoming romantically entwined. Her trip is almost canceled when her mother finds Charlotte and tries to get her to end all this nonsense and go with her to get her procedure done. At first, Charlie goes with her, but then she decides that she wants to keep her baby and stay on her search for Rose. So in other words, she decides that she is grown up now and can take care of herself. After this, the group travels to Limoges, and Finn and her go to a small town outside of Limoges called Ur-del-sur-Glane. There they find an old lady who recounts what happens to Rose there. She was killed in a brutal massacre. Finn helps Charlie to recover from this news, and he shares with her what he saw during World War II, when he liberated the work camps. Together they find a way to cope with their trauma and help each other to become whole. This leads us to the climax of the story. For me, the climax is when Eve and Charlie run into Renee at the hotel. After they have a brutal lunch, the two groups, Eve and Charlie and Renee, part. Charlie tries to explain to Eve that it's not her fault that Lily died because she has found insight to prove that Renee must have gotten that information from another place. She knows she didn't actually betray her friend, and she thinks that calms Eve down, and she goes to get her a sandwich. However, when she comes back, she finds Eve and her pistol gone. Charlie takes their beloved traveling car and goes after Eve. However, they don't have an exact location for Renee. When she gets there, she finds Eve in the same room as Renee. Renee and Eve have pulled guns on each other, and Renee manages to take Eve's gun. However, Charlie takes advantage of Renee's inability to improvise, and she makes him angry. Then she throws the bust of Baudelaire, the same one he used to crush Eve's fingers, at Renee. This catches him off guard, and Eve is able to shoot him. I thought that was a moment of poetic justice. Maybe a little bit of situational irony. Then they're off to escape with Finn's help. In the resolution, we see that everyone has found happiness after the war. Finn and Charlie have raised baby Rose and opened their restaurant, and Eve has found happiness in hunting, of all things. And she also spends time with Finn and Charlie when she's in town. So the resolution to the conflict is that in order to deal with your trauma, you have to face it head on. Also, you shouldn't do this alone. None of the characters in this book would have found peace if it weren't for the other characters. The three main characters in this book help each other to find happiness. Now let's move to characterization. The first character I would love to unpack is Charlie. Now it appeared that Charlie is the main character of this novel since her narrative is in first person. This was an interesting choice for the author to have made, to put the book in Charlie's perspective in first person and Eve's in third person. Maybe it's Charlie telling Eve's story, or maybe it's because Charlie's story happens to be in the present, but she gets to be in the first person. I'm not sure why the author chose to do this. However, it does make it easier to jump from time to time because you can quickly tell by the perspective what time period we're in. I think that Charlotte's character shows a tremendous amount of growth throughout the novel. At the start of the book, Charlie is obnoxious. She doesn't know what she wants, and she's terrible at expressing the things she needs. Her experiences with Eve and Finn help her to understand that she is stronger than she thinks. Through Eve, she learns the power of confidence and courage. And with Finn, she learns that she is in charge of her own destiny. By the end of the novel, Charlie is a much more likable character, and she's really someone who can hold her own. Eve's character changed not only from a young woman to an old woman, but from a scared secretary to someone who knows how to make a difference. Her growth happens as she becomes a spy and learns to use her stutter as a weapon. She also stays true to her friends, even when she's in the most pain she's ever been in. However, she seems to have regression once the war is over, and she doesn't have a place. Also, her belief that she betrayed her friend and mentor destroys her. Meeting Charlie helped her to find herself again. She was able to meet her fear, aka Renee, head on and put him in her path. Also, thanks to Charlie, she's able to make amends with her guilt and forgive herself. So both of the characters mirror each other in growth. By finding each other, they are able to fix each other's weaknesses. Charlie finds a mentor who's not afraid of what people think of her and teaches her that it's okay to live a life outside the social norms. And Eve finds a friend who helps her to find the truth and to defend herself just like Lily did. These two complete each other quite nicely. Now, I love Finn, but he isn't quite as fun as Renee, so we will be brief. He's really such a good guy. I love this quote that captures him. What I mean is, it's not a matter of age. There are boys age 50 and men age 15. It's all in what they do, not how old they are. A boy messes up with a lass and he slinks off without fixing anything. A man makes a mistake, he fixes it, he apologizes. To me, Finn is a pretty static character. He remains the same throughout the book. However, I do think his relationship with Charlie helps him to heal from the trauma. This, I believe, is a reflection of Charlie's brother. Charlie wasn't able to save her brother, but she is able to save Finn, and together they're able to build that family that Charlie always needed. Renee is another stagnant character, so stagnant, in fact, that it makes him easy to track down. However, he's such a good bad guy. Renee is a man who enjoys the finer things in life, and he's not afraid to do morally questionable things to get what he wants. So young Marguerite seems like a strange choice for Renee, but I guess he can feel like he can mold her. He can be in control of the situation between he and Marguerite, and he loves that. Renee's fascination with Baudelaire shows his true character. He loves to live on the edge and delve into the deep end. However, Eve was able to best him. This is interesting because he doesn't seem like a man who would fall for a trap. However, his hubris gets the best of him. You know that his time with Eve broke him because he cannot trust anyone after that. Also, the way he treats Eve when he finds out shows that he is so embarrassed. Renee is the best bad guy for this book because there are no good attributes about him. He never self-reflects and grows. He just keeps falling into the same trap over and over again. Now let's move to themes. The first topic we're going to cover is resilience and courage. Throughout the novel, we see each of these characters dealing with things that scare them, but instead of giving into their fears and backing down, they rise up to face their demons. This is clear in this quote. What did it matter if something scared you when it simply had to be done? We see Eve overcoming her fears many times as a spy, but our fears aren't always so exciting, which is why I love that the author gives us Charlotte in contrast. Charlie's fear is disappointing her parents. She's a real people pleaser. However, she stands up to her mother and chooses to keep her baby. This is a very brave moment for an unwed mother who has lived a very cushy life. I think that in this book, the author is trying to teach us that bad things are going to happen in our lives. This is inevitable. But we can have the strength to overcome anything that scares us. This lesson is learned in the climax of the book when Eve is able to defeat Renee and when Charlotte is able to stand up for herself. The second topic covered in this book is feminism. Women are a powerful force in this book. We first see this with the power of the Alice Network. The most important spy unit was run by a woman. Lily is a force, and she leads by example. My favorite example of this is when they are thrown in prison and Lily leads a strike. She knows the power of women in the work camp and uses this against the Germans. Even when she has been beaten, she still fights. Throughout the book, Quinn points out the disparity between men and women and how much privilege men have. We notice this through the male spies and how they interact with the female ones. Her characters make subtle observations about the disparity throughout this book. However, I do love that Eve learns to use this in her advantage. She takes men's biases and says, yeah, that's gonna be me, and then shoves it in their face. This shows that while women don't like to be treated as less than, they are able to take the upper hand from men so often because men underestimate women's abilities. A quote that highlights this is, "Men are strange creatures. If a woman surrenders her virtue to an enemy, they are confident her patriotism can't be far behind. They have very little faith in a woman's ability to resist falling in love with a man who's betted her. Besides, a horizontal isn't respectable, and a spy's business is already disreputable enough. We can't bring shame on our country by staining our reputations. If we're to engage in espionage, we must do it as ladies." What I think the author wants us to know about women, especially women from the past, is that women have always been strong and capable, and will continue to be strong and capable. This is true of both the women in this novel as well as Quinn's other books. The last topic I would like to discuss is family. In this book, family plays an important role. Eve lost both of her parents at a fairly young age. They helped shape her into a young woman that she became, but they ultimately left her. Also, Charlotte leaves her parents to become a young woman that she wants to be. However, both of them find family in each other and Finn. Family is more than who we are related to. It is the people that we bring into our lives. I do love that Charlotte's family doesn't completely abandon her. I know that some families might, but it makes me happy that not all families are like that. I think the lesson the author wants us to learn about families is twofold. The first is a very Western idea that in order to find yourself, you have to leave your family and figure out who you are on your own. The second is that your family is more than just the people who you are born to. Family are the people who you build and help build you through the most difficult times. Thanks for listening to According to Your English Teacher. I hope you've enjoyed looking at this book a little deeper. Make sure to comment and subscribe. This helps other people to find my channel and join our community. Let me know what books you'd like me to do next. I'd love to do a book that you love as much as I do. This episode of According to Your English Teacher was written by me, Sam Gunther, and edited by Dallin Gunther. The music was done by Tom Brinton. I love that you're here, and thanks for reading. Now, I know at the end of my last video, I said we would be doing Mental Health May. And for my own mental health, I needed to take a step back and take a break this week. Also, the research is taking a whole lot longer than I wanted it to. So I'm not quite done with these episodes. So do be on the lookout for Mental Health May. It's either going to be next week or the week after that. We definitely for sure are going to be looking at Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. And then we'll do some deep dives into Sarah J. Maas and Brandon Sanderson. So those are some things to look forward to as we dive into Mental Health Month. I do think this book is great for Mental Health Month though, because it does talk about PTSD and the trauma that you incur and how if you build a community you can overcome that. Anyway, thanks for being here and happy reading.